Hello everybody, thank you for joining us. Today we're going to draw a unicorn. So unicorn, as most of us are probably familiar with, is that mythical horse that is magical and has this horn about him. So we'll draw it, I'm just thinking about right here. We'll place the head of the unicorn. Now we have done a video in which we illustrated drawing a horse, and that could be instrumental too because unicorn is a horse after all. So let's start with putting an oval, and let's start with putting down the long graceful neck right there, going into the body. So we have these, let's put in like a nice hemisphere here for the legs, and let's put in another hemisphere right here for the other leg. So that is just the general structure of the body of a horse. So one leg, two legs, going back. Let's do some foreshortening here if we need. So because we're looking at it like this way, so we'll go and just put in another hemisphere right here for another oval, let's say, for the rear leg right there. So sort of a structure of a horse. Now we will, of course, we might switch things as we're going along. So let's put some details in place. So what we have here is belly, and of course every horse has its own let's say what we call a graceful thing about them. So we have a leg going onward like that, structure of the leg going in, and its head, of course, its most prominent feature. Now we are looking at this from an angle where we could also do a box like that, maybe a little taller, and we can work with that also if we want. And then of course we can structure all the oval lines, the streamlines, the more streamlines around it. But we do not necessarily have to go that way. We can just go in and generally throw in the line work where we see the lines should be converging. So we have a prominent pair of nostrils always when it comes to a horse. So this is, although this is a unicorn, we will put in some sort of eye right there, and of course essential pair of ears. So we're going to now grab ourselves a pen and do some line work, some crosshatch, to see if we can have some more fun with this. Okay, so grabbing ourselves a pen. Now unicorns generally have different origins, but I would like to speak about as we are going through, let's say this particular video, is some well done unicorn appearances. For instance, they were fillers in the Harry Potter series of movies. So there's, I mean, as I'm chatting about the unicorn, I'm also just throwing in details here and there. Now the horn, of course, the most striking feature of the unicorn is just like a narwhal horn, narwhal veils, if you will. So this horn that is the container of all the magical properties, very essential to the unicorn. If it breaks, in most depicted versions, the unicorn is supposed to die if the horn is severed, if the horn is, I think, broken. So I think certain variations there in terms of depicting how this beast can survive if the horn is compromised. But also my thought goes back to a feature from the 80s, which was just called, I think it was just called The Unicorn, but very striking animated feature, and not necessarily for kids, not at all for kids, if I may say so. It was like a very despotic, very dark. It was a very dark depiction of how people in power misuse their authority, and the unicorn, which is a particular unicorn, which is shown as a sign of defiance of such such an authority, is hunted down, and down the line loses her powers. It was a her, and she even transformed into a lady for a while, and then eventually I think there was a happy ending, but very striking feature. Now on the horn of the unicorn, if I'm like magnifying this for a second, all we have is, I think, to me, like I've seen like both versions, sorry, actually more than two versions, sorry, but main two are this. So intertwined rings growing smaller. I think this really brings out a certain grace. But I've also seen this, just like, segregated horn going upward, and I've also seen just that, like straight segregations with a little cut here and a little tone inside that suggests that the horn is cut, and then of course they put in crosshatch right around. So I'm going with a happy medium in the middle, while leaving certain, like a bit of this certain curvature right around each screw. Now the unicorn horn does not have to resemble a rope, because otherwise it becomes less graceful. So we can go like this, spiraling, and then lower. I think that looks more beautiful, because it has, unicorns have to be beautiful. That is an essential key to drawing them. So soulful eye of the unicorn there. And then also I have seen other features like tap into unicorns. As I mentioned that in the Harry Potter series, they are like shown as like very noble beasts. Again, well, the I guess the only mainstay thing out of all of this is that they are shown as noble beasts. So beasts with magical properties, but beasts that are essentially noble, and they can become aggressive if they are threatened by an evil doer. So they are looked upon as immediately heroic and gallant creatures. And of course, as if when we mention that, and there is no particular source of unicorns being, there's no particular go-to source here when we're talking about unicorns and how they should be portrayed. They are essentially white. That is like also the other main component going in. Now we're just adding quick cross hatch here. So what we're going to do is, for the more, I guess, areas that require some shadow, we'll just throw in tones like that right around, so we have some sort of tonal values going. Just putting those into the rings there and going on the other side. Could have used a lighter one on the other side, but that's okay. Let's darken one end here more and just give that impression. And then we have that. We'll do something with the strands of the glorious flowing here, the mane, the hair, whatever we want to call it. So random inks and tones just going in. So back to the source that we were talking about. So there's no particular go-to source in terms of so Google is like, of course, Google is like full of pictures of unicorns, full of reference material. There have been books that have been published, and believe it or not, I have come across one or two good folks who were pretty convinced that such a far-fetched idea cannot be mythical. Perhaps unicorns did exist at a certain time. Like they wanted to make themselves convinced that yes, their unicorns are here, unicorns were here, sorry, or I'm not sure, or they had seen one. It's like that's how convinced they were that unicorns and even the flying horse Pegasus existed in one form or another. Now as we are putting in the tones, we just throw in some casual shadows here. So there are certain areas of a horse, I would say, that are pretty much highlighted similarly when it comes to either pencil or crosshatch. Since we are using a pen crosshatch here, we will highlight those areas accordingly. So just going to want some quick tones here. So this area here, the muscle structure of a horse, essentially has to be highlighted. Usually it just stands out in a light source, and it's a very muscular beast. And of course unicorns are not shown as any different. So highlighting those key areas, even in a horse that is slightly less built than others, is very, very essential to making all the details work. If you wish to see a credible source in terms of cross-hatching with a pen or a marker in drawing even like unicorns. I think you should check out Frank Frazetta's work. Frank Frazetta, the artist who did good to many properties throughout his career, including Conan the Barbarian, Kull the Conqueror, other properties as well, like giant serpents, mythical beasts, and like Pegasus, prehistoric adventures, and like in which he highlighted dragons and dinosaurs. So different things that came from the mastermind of Frank Frazetta, and you could check out his very not so detailed but very intricately placed crosshatches that used to just like bring out the different features of anything pretty much that he touched upon, anything that he wanted to do. So right here what we are doing is going at a light source that is, yes, for sure hitting like that, and we are just putting in, we're just like trying to go right across the stretch of the video and trying to illustrate one certain manner in which we could get some cross-hatch exercises going on a unicorn. The other leg, I think I should just put that down here, put in some crosshatch like that, just to like suggest a shadow. We can darken it after with some other let's say what we call inks as well. Now there was a time when unicorns were depicted. I've come to the tail, that's why I'm just mentioning this detail here. So there was a time when unicorns were shown with, I've seen illustrations, unicorn with a lion's tail. In fact, there was a very, I would say viral. I mean, there was no concept of being going viral at the time, but it was viral because that image, certain images that used to hit a chord with fans or people who used to go and buy material to read about, to delve into their favorite genres. One of the images was that a unicorn was battling this lion, and in that one illustration, it was, I'm not sure, I think they were showing that the lion was going to probably win because the unicorn ran right through the tree and probably it impaled the tree with the horn, and that probably showed that it would have gotten stuck and the lion would, I guess, win, it would kill it. I'm not sure. So it was a very intriguing image. Like usually they would just, nowadays if we see any illustrations, we will probably see like two beasts just running toward each other. But that one, I think the artist, for some reason, I think maybe he favored the lion, but he went a little further in showing that the unicorn impaled the tree, and the way the illustration showed was like sort of a desperation, that its horn was stuck and the lion would eventually, I think, kill it. It would win if the unicorn is stuck in the tree. So very, I don't know, desperate kind of image, but like masterful work regardless. But here we have almost come to the end of our crosshatch exercise in making this unicorn.